in Jasay City and around the world, welcome to another episode of Chicago's ILLectuals podcast. And today, we have Darryl DJ Johnson. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir.
How are you, my brother?
Hey, my brother. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So let's just jump right into it, man. Tell the world a little bit about your background, including where you were raised.
Oh, Rod, born and raised Chicago, Illinois.
Like that.
Born and raised in Englewood, man. 72nd and 72nd place. Let me clarify for all my folks out there. Born and raised Englewood, 72nd place between Bishop and Laughlin. And Rod, man, had a great upbringing, man. And Rod, where we've come from, riding the bus together and all of that. And Rod, Englewood is not. It's changed, and it's starting to come back to what it was when I was a kid. Okay. In my youth. It went through a rough patch, man. It's every city does that. Yeah. It ain't just limited to Chicago. No matter what the media wants to tell y'all, listen. I've been in the hood in New Orleans, been in the hood in Dallas, and they good neighborhood. Good neighborhoods got good people. Yeah, but you have an assortment of people who wanna not make it be that. So born and raised in Englewood, Chicago Ill. Grew up in the 70s, the early 70s to and Rod, man, had some of the best times, man, growing up. My folks worked. My dad worked he did a litany of things, man. At one point, I think when I was born in the late 60s, mid 60s, he was working for CTA. Mm-hmm. Then he was working security over at Sears, where their main offices were over on the west side on Holman. Okay. And then he got into a program of a management program, and he became management at Sears for the buyers and everything. So, we got a discount on school clothes and all that.
Right. He needed that, bro.
and everything in the house was Kenmore or Sears. My mom worked for the Archdiocese. So we came up in the Head Start program. Yeah. We were Head Start kids, man. So we came up, she was working for the Archdiocese. She worked at St. Sabina, she worked at Sacred Heart, she worked at St. Brennan, she worked, and then later on, Rod, she got her master's in early childhood development, and she became a head of Chase House, their Head Start programs.
Wow, bro. I didn't know.
Yeah. And Rod, she got her master's at I just got out of college in 1990. So like that fall of 1990, she got her master's. So, we're 30 years apart. I just got my bachelor's, and then she gets her master's.
Isn't that a beautiful thing, man?
Yeah, man.
Hey, listen, tell the world a little bit about your educational path, man. Start from your grammar school and take us up through. We're gonna spend a little time on the high school part. So start with your grammar school.
Not too much. Grammar school, man. We, like I said, we came up in the Head Start program. That was at Sacred Heart. And then when I got to kindergarten, I did kindergarten, Sacred Heart. But then first grade, we went out to, we didn't get bussed out, but my mom, her sister, her sister, my Aunt Gloria, God rest her soul, she lived out in Roseland. So Brennan, Thomas Brennan, I think was the name of the school, but it was a good grammar school. And even though we lived in Englewood and Allgate was right there, my mom didn't feel comfortable sending us there for whatever.
Now hold on for 1 second. For the sake of clarity, because I know what Roseland is, but because the world might not know, where is Roseland located?
Roseland is south. It's what we would call now. It's called out in the Wild Hunnets. You know, it's out there on 115th and right. It was west of Halsted, because my cousins lived on, my aunt, she lived on 113th and Union. So it's west of that. So maybe like Parnell, somewhere around like in there. So was this school, Brennan? We went there, and see, you got to remember too, Rod, Englewood and the Wild Hundreds weren't what they are now.
Okay. That's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at. You caught that. Okay. All right.
Man, you had working class, you had working middle class, man. You had in our neighborhood, you had people work for the steel mills, work for CTA, the post office, so on and so forth. Same thing with Roseland. You had people working CTA, worked for Sherwin-Williams Paint that was out there on like 115th, right off the expressway. You can still see the remnants of the factory. The factory is small, a lot smaller than it was back then. It was, but industry played a big role in our neighborhoods, right? The steel mills, when the steel mills were going, man, people were prosperous all along in my neighborhood in Englewood, all along like 75th, I mean, it's not 75th, but 74th Street, 76th Street. You had the Continental Can Company. You had Chicago Fire Brick Company. You had Dries and Crump right there at 74th and Loomis, and all the way down to Damon, west on 74th down to Damon. You had all these steel fabrication plants and so on and so forth. Right? It was major industry, man. And same thing in Roseland. You just had all of this industry, and when industry dries up, man, neighborhoods change. Neighborhoods change, and it was I think it was the beginning of the end of that working middle class. I mean, Rod, we went on, we didn't go to Disney World, but you went down to Mississippi to see your grandparents and your aunts and uncles. So we got a sense of farm life, of getting up, crack of dawn, feeding whoever, feeding whatever needed to be fed, milking whatever needed to be milked, harvesting whatever needed to be harvested. So I'm a city dude at heart, but I do love my country getaway periodically.
Now let me ask you this question, man, because you said something very serious, man, that I feel needs to be highlighted a little bit here. You talked about when industry started to decline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Englewood and Roseland.
Yeah, but all over the city.
All over the city. But in your particular case, Englewood and Roseland. And studies show that there's a direct correlation between poverty and crime.
Yeah.
And that was around the time where Englewood and Roseland started to get some of the darker reputation.
Yeah. Can
you talk a little bit about that?
Like I said, Rob, I watched it firsthand. My older sister, Diane, God rest her soul, she worked at the steel mill on 79th and South Shore, like a lot of our neighborhood did. Mr. Green, or you know, all Rod, I could get into the names of, but all of these people had influence on us, in a positively. But yeah, when the industry started shutting down, in particular my neighborhood, when the big steel mill shut down at 79th and South Shore, that was the feeder for a lot of the stamping plants and forging plants that were in Englewood. So when that happened, man, it was wow. You started to see the little restaurant, the little corner stores that fed the neighborhoods. Those started to go away. Those started to take on a different texture, take on a different just took on a different light, man. I'm telling you, man, when we moved from Englewood, because I was in college. I'd gone away to college, and this was like 1987-ish, 88. And when we moved, man, I remember when I went back to the old neighborhood, and somebody told me, they said, DJ, man, when y'all moved, man, that dark cloud came over the neighborhood. And they were like, man, you know, some of us tried to hold on to what the old neighborhood was, but we just couldn't. And some of my friends are still over there. My man Cal Jones, good brother. But you know, it was just hard, man, for a lot of people a lot of people stayed, but but the texture of the neighborhood, the way it was set up, the way people looked out for each other, the way people talked to each other. You had you had people who weren't originally from the neighborhood moving in, and not all of them, you know, but you know what happens, Rob, when you have people who come in who aren't from there, who don't know the ways of the neighborhood, and it brought some trouble. And
so what I hear you saying is that sense of community all but disappeared. And here's some irony for you. Here's some irony for you. Our brother Hawk, man, Rodney Hawkins, he tells that same story when he went away to college and he went overseas to play basketball. He came back to the neighborhood. And as you were saying those things, I couldn't help but think about my conversation with Rodney Hawkins. But let me ask you this. Up to what grade did your grammar school go to?
Oh,
5th grade or 8th grade?
8th grade. 8th grade.
Went to 8th grade.
And, yeah, what I was, let me clarify. We went to Brennan out in Roseland. We just went there for a year.
Okay.
My mother wanted to see what it was like, and you know, my cousin, he was in, I think he was in like 7th grade. He's a little older than me, so I was in 1st grade. He was probably in like 7th grade. So, you know, we went out there for a year, and then when we came, then the next year, that's when we started at John Allgale up on 71st and Loomis.
Gotcha.
A couple of Van Porter went there with, you know. God rest his soul, man.
Wow. Rest in peace, Chappelle.
Terrence Carter. So it was a lot of us who became Chicago Vocational Cavaliers. CVS, man, that instilled that instinct to take care of your business, do what's right. And although we didn't do it all the time, right?
Well, I didn't do it most of the time.
but that school gave us a sense of community. You was in the band, and y'all was tight.
Yeah.
I plays football. We was tight. And I always say this to people too, and people from other schools know this about us. They said, "Man, y'all ain't never had no beef with each other." I said, "No, for what?" I said, if there was, it was we got a handle on it internally and squash that right away. Because Rod, me and you ride the bus together. What I'm gonna be beefing with you about?
Yeah.
We rode the bus.
I mean, although we did see we saw some things happen in gang culture in the first couple of years and stuff like that. But by the time we were juniors, I think that has started to decline significantly.
Because now our freshman and sophomore years, we tricked them off, Rod. We tricked them off. But when junior year came around, Rod, that's when it clicked that, oh man, I better get on my thing if I want to, because for me, playing sports, playing ball, I was like, yeah, I'm playing college, and I was assured of my abilities. I was like, yeah, I can play at the college level. And Rod, that's when I was like, okay, you got to get your grades first. And Rod, we used all our free summers, our summers to go to summer school, nights during the school year for night school up at not Englewood, but Longwood or St. Francis. Yeah, because man, I remember I had to go to summer school at Unity one year, at University of Illinois Chicago Circle campus back in the day. These are things that happened in my childhood, in my youth, and it was just wild, man. And but that gave me, that's where I get my sense of community, and it pains me to this day, Rod, that we have lost that. It's slowly coming back, especially in Englewood. I big ups to my friends and family who still holding down in Englewood. But Rod, that's where we came from. That's what formed me. That's where my ideals, that's where my thought processes, that's where I come from, man. And you never let some of it go.
Yeah.
Some of it
let me ask you. You just gave me a lot of information, man, because I've kind of wondered about, number one, how you managed to navigate Englewood and the gangs to the point where it didn't sidetrack you. That's number one. But secondly was, when I think about you, I think about two people, that has similar character. And one being Derek Fields, right? Pig. And the second being Devin Wells, right?
God rest their soul, man. God rest their soul. My brothers, man.
Yeah. And so you answered those questions for me, man, and I really appreciate that, because I've kind of always wondered about that with you three guys, although the way that you carried yourselves very early was admirable, so I appreciate that. But we're going to move on. We're going to move on, man. I want to talk a little bit about your profession. Can you tell the world what a studio mechanic is?
Studio mechanic, Rod, giving you a quick history breakdown. Studio mechanics were, if you think back to old Hollywood, all that you had, the Warner Brothers, Fox, you had all of those,
Paramount, and all of these people.
So the men and the men and women who worked on those sets were studio mechanics. Studio mechanic covers lighting, grips, props, set dressers, craft service, greensmen. I've done probably 80 to 90% of the jobs covered in the studio mechanics category.
Okay, stop right there. I've always wondered what the hell grips meant. When I would see like the credits rolling at the end of a film, I'm like, grips, key grips. What the fuck is that?
Okay, the the grip department is what I like to always call it. They're the set handyman. They're the set. You know, if you need something built on set, you usually we have construction department. We have a construction department, which is also under the studio mechanics. But the grip is the guy who's therefore supporting the lighting department with diffusions or lighting material. You know, you like if this is the light I'm on, and they say, okay, we want to darken this side. Okay, well, DJ, get a what we would call a flag or a cutter, and you use it to cut the light or to shape the light. Gotcha. The electrician, the lighting guy department, they have the light, but then the grip department comes in and diffuses it. Okay, if this is too bright, okay, we want to trim it down a little bit. We want to have it more on this side of them, on that side or this side, that type of thing. Gotcha. And then the dolly grip is the guy who actually operates the dolly that the camera is on with the camera operator, and he's pushing it along when you see those moving shots. And so that's the dolly grip. Okay,
so these guys are more so like laborers / carpenters /
yes.
Forklift operators.
Sometimes as a studio mechanic, because we do so many different things, Rod, I do have to get a certified operating a forklift, operating a man lift, operating we have the lift that we attach lights to, and then can put it 100 feet in the air. Mm-hmm. So those are all the things that we do. Those are all. That's.
Let me ask you this: did you go to school for this?
You know what, Rod? I went to college. Initially, I thought I was going to be more in broadcasting. Okay. So I was thinking, Ahmad Rashad was one of my, guys. The guy ESPN was around, but it was still, any of those guys, man. In particular, the black broadcasters, Ed Gordon from BET, Bernard Shaw from CNN, what's his name? Max Robinson used to be on World News. Mm-hmm. I think he was one of the first blacks to host World News solo, and he was from Chicago. I remember he used to live over in South Shore. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Max Robinson, he was a black newsman, but all of the black news, and my cousin was Wesley South. Oh, wow. Who started WVON with Purvis Spann.
Wow.
Yes, and Purvis's daughter Melody Spann Cooper, she's still holding it down. Still, she moved them from 87th to downtown. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, man, it's so all of these things are in me, Rod. Wow. All of these. These are different elements of my life. Like I said, I thought I was going to be in broadcasting, but when I graduated college, I started working as a background. I thought I was going to go into acting, maybe. Mm. Then some years later, I started working in the film industry full time in 1996.
1996, bro.
1996.
What are you, 20 years? You're almost 30 years in.
Yeah. So I started working in the industry. I started working as a PA, production assistant. That means you were going to get coffee. You were just helping wherever, a lot of times you setting background, you're controlling the crowd or whatever, all
wherever of that. Help was needed.
Wherever help was needed. And then I started, I started working a little bit as a studio mechanic, it was what we call, you were a permit worker. So I wasn't a journeyman. So I was on permit for like 4 years. And then January of 2000, thank God to my mentors who helped me get into the union. I always got to talk about him. Aaron Holden Sr. Was one of my mentors who I met when I first started working in the business. And he would talk to me, tell me, hey, you want to do this, you don't want to do that. You want to be here, he taught me how to be a professional. Jacob Collins, he was one of the black sound mixers as well. Taught me again how to be a professional, put money in my pocket, but I wouldn't have been anywhere without them guys.
So let me say this. Thank you so much for that, because on this podcast, we're almost always talking about the importance of mentorship.
Yeah.
I would not let the importance of mentorship be forgotten about, minimized, or disrespected, at least on this platform.
Yeah, we need that. We need that, Rod. And that's what I do now. I've brought in probably about 10 to 15 people within the into the Studio Mechanics Union.
You're right at about 27 years in the industry.
Right? Yeah.
You're about 27 years in the industry, and I would just like to know, man, I've been knowing you for a long time, and some of these things I did not know. Although we would see one another periodically, we would exchange pleasantries and everything like that. But, we kind of keep it moving, right? Both of us are really busy. It's not that we don't love one another. We're just busy.
Right.
What are some of the sets that the world would know about that you would
Rod, I'll tell you. That first year I got in, 1996 of January, my first movie I worked on was with Morgan Freeman and Keanu Reeves, Chain Reaction.
I remember Chain Reaction.
Chain Reaction. Keanu Reeves was a scientist working in collaboration about this energy source, hydrogen energy.
I remember that.
Which is very real, and there was a whole CIA backdrop to the story with Morgan Freeman and all of that. And it's, that was the first project I worked on as a full-time production person. I did that for 4 months. That was in the dead of winter, from January to like May. The next movie I got on was I call it a classic. Of course, it's a Black classic as well, but I always call it a classic. Love Jones.
Love Jones. I didn't know you worked on Love Jones.
I got hired as a van driver by the transportation, the Teamsters hired me as a van driver because of the relationships I had made on Chain Reaction. Other people who were on Love Jones. Somebody said, what the Teamsters said, hey, you know anybody who can drive a van for us and whatnot? And this guy, I got to give him props too. My man Don Julian. He told the Teamster captain, yeah, it's this guy DJ I met on Chain Reaction. He can knock it out. And I get a call, and this is before we had cell phones, and we had just barely got beepers and whatnot. But Pat Lynn calls me up, hey DJ, Don Julian told me you can drive a van. I'm like, yeah. He's like, meet me out here at Chicago Studio, which is Chicago Studio City, out there on right off of Central and Roosevelt, right there, still there. So, man, I go out there. The dude gives me a 15-passenger van and a walkie-talkie and says, "Hey, man, If this number comes up on your pager, call right back. If do this, do that. And so my first two jobs, Morgan Freeman, Keanu Reeves, Rachel Wise, she's does a lot of, she's an actress, works a lot. Of course, everybody knows Keanu Reeves, John Wick, Neo. So Morgan Freeman, Fast Black, from so from the electric company. So all of these, so all of this, and then working with homegrown talent, Lorenz Tate, Ted Whitcher, wrote and directed Love Jones, Isaiah Washington, great actor. Who else? Lisa Nicole Carson. So, but it was just Nia Long, and who I'm friend. We're all friends. All of these people I just named, all friends today.
So let me say this. Let me say this for the sake of clarity, because the world should hear this in case they don't already know. Love Jones is a classic, damn it. Not just a black classic. It's a fucking classic.
And matter of fact, it was named. Wow, I gotta say this about my brother Ted Whitcher. He is so humble and whatnot. He's never gonna pat himself on the back. So that's what we do for him, because that was the start of a Black Renaissance in film. And then Rod, same year, 1996, that fall, another classic was Soul Food.
You worked on Soul Food as well?
Worked on Soul Food. George Tillman directed. Bob Title was the producer. Babyface and his wife Tracy Edmonds. So this is how I got to start, man.
Listen, man. You were beginning to kick ass in a very short amount of time, bro. You were making connections, building relationships, very short amount of time.
And a lot of those connections I still have to this day, Rob, because of what Englewood taught me and what CVS taught me and what college taught me. And gotta give big ups to, she was my academic advisor in Oshkosh, God rest her soul, Sarah Helgerson and Coach Kosh. Because those were the two main people that got me through, because there was a time I was going to quit college, man. I can do this.
And so let's bring the world up to date. Can you please share with us some of the projects you've worked on in the last 10 years? Rod,
and after that, man, I've worked I'll start currently.
Yes.
Get ready to watch season 2 of Power Force. That's with Tommy doing Tommy stuff, So this is season 2 getting ready to air next Friday on the 1st.
I didn't know that. I gotta write that down.
Put that down. I've worked all 6 seasons of The Chi.
Okay.
So those were the most current. And I've worked Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks. I worked Contagion with Lawrence Fishburne and Matt Damon. I've worked wow, man. I mean, Public Enemies with Michael Mann directing, Johnny Depp, Stephen Dorff, Christian Bale. I've worked. Wow, Rod.
Did you do early Empire as well?
You know what? I didn't do Empire because I was always working on another show. Okay. I was working on this show. I was working on this movie, Jupiter Ascending. And then I went on to something else, and this other show was going. And then when Empire came around, I actually worked on maybe like season 2 or 3. It's what we call day plan, where you just come in. I worked as an audio guy for a couple of for a second unit that they had. You have a main unit, and then you have they have, if you got extra work to get done, you have to bring a second unit. So I was a second unit sound department guy. So I never really worked Empire because I was always working on something else. I was working on, like I said, I was working on The Chi for 6 seasons. So, and all of them filmed at the same time. So I was always working on something else. And let's see, Rob, like I say, man, sometimes I forget. Honestly.
Okay, I can ask you the questions. Don't worry. Speaking of The Chi, how much does Common have to do with that?
Well, his company, Crossroads, they were a producing partner. While he was there, his company, they were in a partnership with Lena Waithe's company and Fox, or whatever the studio was that was producing. So he had, I don't know, I think they had more to do with like the storytelling part, not so. I mean, different producers do different things. Sometimes you have a producer who's about the money aspect, the budget aspect. Then you have a producer who's about the talent aspect, who any talent issues that come up, they deal with that. Gotcha. Any monetary issues come up, this other producer deals with that. Any logistical things that come up, this producer deals with that. So you just have it depends on the lane that you're in.
What about narrative consultancy?
You know what? The narrative of The Chi or any show, for that matter, it just depends on what if you're a partner, it depends on what you're into, what you're doing. I don't know, some of the storyline, I think early on, and like I say, Rod, I don't like to talk out of school because I never asked Rashid what his angle, and he and Derek Dudley, I never asked what their, where they actually fit in. But I think it was just, as a producing partner and some of the story. So they were maybe a quarter of the story or something like that. And then Lena had maybe, a higher percentage of responsibility and whatnot. And then of course, ultimately the studio has control over the whole project.
Yeah. So, but he's definitely involved.
He's definitely involved. He's, if you remember, he was a character,
a recurring
character in the first 2 or 3 seasons. So yeah, he was involved, and I've looked for, in the talks that we've had on set and stuff, he's talked about wanting to do more things here. His producing partner, Derek Dudley, is involved actually, and this is what we talk about. He's actually involved in getting ready to build a studio from the ground up over on 79th and South Chicago.
Read all about it.
Yeah. So, and big ups to him, and also Jim Reynolds from Loop Capital Management, who Derek partnered up with, and and I look for great things to come out of that relationship.
Back to Power. So, are you only working on Force, or are you working on other components under the umbrella?
Just Force. Because Force is the only one that's filmed here. Okay. And if to give people the backstory on that, if you saw Power at the end when Ghost was killed or what have you, then Tommy left New York and he was headed to like California, stopped in Chicago, and set up shop.
Set up shop, baby.
and we got to, it's been a good show. We got some great characters, great actors. My man, young buck Chris Lofton, who I met Chris Lofton when he was doing Hardball. He was a kid. He was a kid, and I was probably 2 years into the union, so that was probably like 2002, something like that, somewhere like that. And I met Chris Lofton and a young Michael B. Jordan.
Oh wow!
So they always looked at me, hey, Unc, what are we snacking on today? What do we got? These types of things, man. And Tommy, I worked with him on another movie I did with Keanu Reeves called The Watcher, where he was a serial killer. And Tommy, Joseph Sikora, Chicago born and bred, he played the skater kid who escapes Keanu Reeves. And when we were getting, in pre-production, I saw him around the office, and he looks at me and he was like, DJ, what's what's up, man? What's going on? And
that's like a Chicago white guy.
Yeah. And Rod, it makes you feel good, man, when people that you've worked with almost 20 years ago remember you, and they're like, man, you were cool then and you cool now.
Yeah.
And like I say, that goes back to the training that I had from my mentors, from the people who helped guide me in the business, and I give that back every chance I get.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that mentorship component of the industry that you're in.
For us, we have the camera union, they have an internship program. Our union, studio mechanics, we have an internship program. So it is about, man, getting people, showing them another aspect of it, because everybody always sees just the actor. You just see the actor on screen. You don't see the special effects guy who's making that big explosion while that actor is running through the flames. And I do special effects as well. So I've done the big explosions on Chicago Fire, on Nightmare on Elm Street, just to name a few, because Rod, I literally it's so many. But when you see that, when people see that actor running and jumping out of a window down into the Chicago River, I was the guy who made the explosion happen. I was the guy who was the prop guy on that show. And so the actor is on fire. He's jumping out the window. He hits the water. Now, fire rescue, they make sure he's safe, make sure we got the shot. He comes out. I got to because he had a necklace or something on, a watch or something. So I got to make sure he's got all of that.
Yeah, he didn't lose anything. Yeah,
right. Yeah. And I did going back. Oh man, let's go back, Rod. Barber Shop.
Oh wow, talk about Barber Shop, man. You left out another classic. How you do that, bro?
Big and Rod, charge it to the head, not the heart. But Barber Shop, because I'd worked on Soul Food with the same producing guys, Bob Title, George Tillman. This was like the first feature film for this director, Tim Story, who was big in the music video. He was big in the music video world. I was a prop assistant. So every day I'm handing the actors their, like Cube had a watch. He had that backpack. He was, he needed, when he went to the store to buy that juice after they had stole the ATM machine. I remember I had to, they were like, oh shit, Cube doesn't have any money, doesn't have any cash to pay for the juice. So I had a couple of bucks in my pocket, and I gave it to him. And jokingly, I was like, hey man, make sure I get my money back.
Yeah.
but and Cube was a solid dude, man. I mean, I see the growth in him from that, because his company was a producing partner on that, on Barber Shop 1 and 2. So, man, it's like I say, these relationships, Queen Latifah or Dana, to me, she's Dana. Cedric the Entertainer, he said to me. Our homeboy, Harry Lennox, born and raised Chicago. So, man, when you see these people, man, people always ask me, how come you don't, I don't have a lot of picture-based studios. So you could see, you would sign up through his office, and it's a lot of the kids, like I say, who got in. They're in the camera union, they're in our union, so they're in local 600, they're in local 476. Some of them are in the wardrobe union, which is 769, I believe. So you just, and it really, and like I say, it's really all over the city.
So this is important. This is important. This is why I'm asking you this question. When you say these kids are in the union, what age group are we talking about? Give me an age group.
Some of them, I think that you had to be, I wasn't quite sure, I think, but I know some of the kids came in very young, at, maybe 20 years old, something like that. I know our union, you have to be 18.
Okay.
It's not like you got to be 16, but you have to be 18 years old. A lot of the old veterans that I learned the game from, they started out when they were, even back then, because of work laws and stuff now, but some of them started when they were 16, 17, because their fathers or their uncles or whoever, they were in the union, and that's just how you came up. That was a thing. And like I said, I was in the union. I was on the permit list for 4 years before I actually got my union card and became a journeyman.
So the reason that I'm asking you this particular question very carefully and mindfully is because, this podcast is starting to be recognized, and I know that there will be young people who will see this. This is why I asked you what neighborhoods they were from.
Yeah.
I'm going with that, and how old they were when they started to get in the union. Yeah. That's why I asked you that.
We had a lot of them. We had a lot of them from the West Side, because the studio sits right on the West Side, sits right at Ogden and Rockwell.
Okay.
It used to be the old Ryerson steel plant. Remember, we were talking earlier about industry.
Yeah.
And when that steel industry went away, that building was left there, and the people from CineSpace who started the studios up in Canada, they saw it as an opportunity and rehabbed it, still rehabbing it, because it's always something more, something new that you got to do, because the technology is changing. So you got to make sure your Wi-Fi is up to par, because people, man, it's computers going everywhere. It's technology everywhere now. The light, the some of the cameras and the equipment are technology based.
Are they using drones as well?
Drones, everything. So you gotta have a strong Wi-Fi signal so that everybody can work, because guess what? Like I said, a lot of the equipment now is Wi-Fi based.
Or fiber optics? No. What are they using now?
They're using everything. That's what I'm saying. They're using everything. And as you know, all of that changes so rapidly that as a studio, you have to be adapting. This system that we had 2 years ago ain't even good anymore. So now we got to put this in. We got to put that in.
Yeah, man, that's cold-blooded, man. That's really interesting. Listen, we talked a lot, man. We talked a lot about the industry, the young people, the importance of mentoring. I want to ask you now, because we've also discussed many great prominent actors and actresses that you've met, that you know personally, and that you may have just come across in the industry. I want to ask you this. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of actors?
Ooh, Mount Rushmore of actors.
Yeah.
Man, I gotta put Denzel up there because he's done. And this is when I say this, because you got to look at their scope of work and what they have done, the characters they have played, the depth and the layers of characters that they've played. Denzel is up there. Wow. I want to say like Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman. Robert De Niro. And probably Angela Bassett, man, because I've seen all of them play. I've seen all of them play
a wide variety of characters.
Man, everything. I've seen them play dope fiends. I've seen them play bad cops. I've seen them play pimps. I've seen them play a woman. And I remember I worked on. I was working on Chirac, and I was working on. We were doing. Remember Meet the Browns?
Yes.
When that came out, I was working on that, and that's where I first met Angela Bassett. I knew her husband, Courtney B. Vance, because I'd worked with him years ago on a show called I forget it, but he was in town. He was doing this show. So when I met her on Meet the Browns, I said, "Hey, I met your husband some years back." And man, she hugged me. She always was cool, and she said, "DJ, how did you?" And she asked me what you asked. She's like, "What made you get in this business? How did you find your way to this business? Because it's hard to get into for some. I'm not going to say it's a back then it was but like now it's a little more easier to navigate."
Do you think that she asked you that question as a result of not seeing enough of us with our skin tone?
Yeah, and you know what? And again, Chirac was directed by the great Spike Lee.
Yeah.
I give anybody who's persevered in this industry, I give them flowers. Give each and every one of us who has persevered in this business flowers, because it hasn't always been easy. Fighting for money, fighting for recognition, fighting for your worth is big, man. So talking to her, and then I did a project with Courtney, her husband, called 61st Street. I don't know if you saw it. It was on
Yes, I love that film, man. A lot
it
of
was
people don't know about that film.
it was a great series, man. It was like a mini series. I think it did. I think
Is it
it
coming
did.
back? They're gonna bring it back?
I don't know, man. I don't think so. I don't think so.
I
Because
think the message might have been too strong.
but and you know what, Rod? That's what we deal with when it's left up to others to try. You know, we go to this, we go and tell, we have our plan, we have our script, and say, hey, I want to tell my story. And then it's got to be touched by.
They want to edit your story, brother. And that's not just in your industry. That's,
you know what,
oh my goodness.
We've been over that, and that, you know, you've been over that for so long. Is always somebody else trying to tell your story, trying to tell you what's important and what's not important. And I remember hearing stories from, you know, you remember hearing stories from directors and producers about the battles that they have to go through with the studio, because the studio is trying to deem, oh, this isn't important, this isn't, we don't need to cover this part of it. Well, that's the part that without that being covered, the story is going to be incomplete. The story is going to be incomplete.
That's the perfect segue, DJ. That's a perfect segue. I would like to ask you, what would you like to see come out of this strike that your industry is presently in? I would like to ask you that in regards to an equitable solution, right? With actors and everyone who's in the industry having some form of agency.
You just said it. I want to see an equitable form of compensation, and understand that people know their worth. Don't just dismiss it. It's, you know, it's easy, and I always say, I've been saying, it's easy for a guy sitting on an 80,000 acre ranch, sitting up there telling writers and actors and just telling that, wait a minute, I'm going to go even further, even though we're not on strike. But do you see how that affects us? We haven't worked since May.
You may as well be on strike.
Right. But you know, I can't go to my, I can't get some of the benefits that a strike, somebody who's involved in a strike, I can't get some of those benefits because my union isn't on strike. But there's so many other unions tied to the industry. And like I told, I saw a couple of actor friends the other day, saw some producer friends and some writer friends, and I said to all of them, I said, make sure you sign. Don't just go in to sign a deal. Sign the right deal, because with the technology of AI, which is a big sticking point, and streaming services. See, when the residual system was going on, it was always when the movie came out. When the movie came out, you got paid for doing the movie, and then you got residuals when it came on cable or whatever. It ain't just cable now. You probably got a roughly 20 streaming type services going. So the money is not being equally distributed, because instead of that TV show or movie being on, it was released in the theaters and then it went to HBO or Showtime. Now it's on Netflix. Now it's on Amazon. Now it's on Tubi. Now it's on that. So you have, the formula ain't just one size fits all anymore.
There's been a paradigm shift.
Yeah, it's a major shift. And people just you have to understand that it's not that they want half the pie. They want an equal share because I'm doing the work that you're not really doing. And this is the thing. You as a studio guy, you're not really doing any. I'm providing you with work. I'm keeping your job going by I'm writing these great stories and whatnot, and then you take them to the studio heads, and then they say, okay, we're going to give you 30, 40 million to do this project.
A few crumbs.
Right, but then you all want to tell us the people who are building the sets, who are doing the lighting, the camera, who are doing the props, doing the craft service. You all are now. You're telling us that our labor doesn't matter. Well, it kind of does, man. It kind of does. Don't. And I tell people, don't kid yourself into thinking that the industry is just about that. This strike is just about writers and actors, because our contract is going to come up soon. The camera contract is going to come up. The Directors Guild, their contract came up, and they got a good, seemingly a good deal. So everybody, that's all people want. Hey man, you know what we used to say, Rod? Cheat me fairly, brother.
Yeah.
You gonna cheat?
Hey, listen, you know what we said in the hood, right? Fair exchange ain't no robbery.
Yeah.
But see, we're dealing with the essence of capitalism, right?
Yeah.
This is what I hear you talk about. Hey, listen, let's go ahead and move on. What are you presently reading, man?
Ooh, Rod, you know what? I'm still in 1619. I met Hannah last, but when she was putting the book out, and I grabbed a copy. So I'm in the still, because it's a thing, how when you read something like that, you gotta block some time for that. You can't just read 20 pages and then put it down and try and pick up, because it's so much material. It's so many, so 1619. I'm also, man, I also just reading like some of the classics, like Native Son. I was reading. I'd like to ride on the for real. I've always been a newspaper and magazine. Okay. So I got all types of magazines and just stuff, man. And I want to be more. I'm curious about, like, I got a little bit into wine and whiskeys and bourbons and stuff like that. So I pick up magazines or whatever, publications on that. Food. I'm big into food. So man, I like to read about these new chefs that are creating, man, just some of the bombest food that you've ever had. And man, Rod, I like to, man, I've been going with this extended summer. I've been like hanging out down in Restaurant Row and on Randolph Street. Full Market, yeah. Full Market, but all around the city, man. Out west, my man Quentin, who used to have Quench on the south side. Yeah. He's got the soul food joint on West 16th Street in the heart of Woodlawn, not Woodlawn, Lawndale. Okay. In the heart of Lawndale.
I remember when Quench first got started. Yeah, I remember Quench.
Yeah. So man, I go all around, man. I just love food and drink, man, and meeting people, and it even inspired me, Rod. Just recently, I got into a partnership group, and we're going to be doing events in Atlanta and Chicago right now. I'll send you the links to them. But the one that I partnered up with was this DJ named Fathom DJ Danielle Abston. She's a CBS alum as
Really?
well.
What year?
Yeah.
What year she come out?
Man, what is she? She must be like maybe like 90. We're 84. So she might be like 94, 96, somewhere like that. Okay. Forgive me for not knowing.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
But,
yeah, man.
So these different events are curated because sometimes you go somewhere and the music is too loud. It's not just about having a give me a Hennessy and a beer. That's not what we're doing. We're not that we can't do that, but what we're looking to do is curated cocktails. Not just a shot and a beer. Curated food, not just fried chicken and some collard greens and that. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes, Rod, you go out and you're looking for a little more.
Yeah. So what I hear you talking about is intersectionality and exposure.
And exposure and like I say, producing these events for everybody. It ain't. But like I said, when you go out, sometimes, Rod, you want a little more. You want a little different crowd. You want a different scenery.
And I feel you on that, though. I feel you on that because I consider myself to be a pretty good cook, but if and when I'm going to go out to dinner, I want something number one outside my culture. I don't want anything that I can cook at home. Number one, right? And I also want it to be reasonably high quality, right?
Yeah,
that's what I want.
And it should be. Yeah. That was the purpose for us doing these events. And Rod, like I say, it's going to be something when you come and check it out, you get it. It's right now. The one that we're doing one in Atlanta this coming weekend, Labor Day weekend. It's called Saunter. It's on Eventbrite. Forgive me for not having the link and everything, but you know what? If you go on Eventbrite and you pull up Saunter, it's September the 2nd in Atlanta at M Bar. That's the name of the venue, M Bar, and it's curated food, drink, music. And then we're doing one September 8th at Currency Exchange Cafe on Garfield Boulevard.
Bro, that's my neighborhood. Stop it. You know I was born and raised on 53rd and Calumet.
Yeah.
Currency Exchange. Let me fun fact. Miss Honesty used to own that Currency Exchange, black lady, right?
Yeah.
Her and my mom was really good friends. So that Currency Exchange is iconic, man.
Yeah, in the neighborhood, yes.
Yeah. So I was born and raised right there. That's huge, man.
And that's my mother's neighborhood. She grew up in the neighborhood. She grew up at 53rd in Michigan. Her father was C.B. Waterford, had the Waterford Funeral Home.
Bro, you know my paper route was on from 55th to 51st and Indiana on one side of the street. I actually had a paper route back in the day. Before I came to school, I had a paper route at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's oh my God, man. That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. Listen, what type of music does DJ listen to?
Oh man, wide variety. Man, I've been listening to last night, Rod. And this is what I'm talking about how it's starting to come back. The full circle is starting to come back. Last night I went to Millennium Park and they had an event celebrating all these great artists who have come out of public housing. Isaiah Sharkey, musician, he came out of Greenie Green. Salt and Pepper's DJ Spinderella. She was there.
What's that Chicago connection?
It's not about just Chicago connection. It was about, she was raised in the Pink Houses project in Brooklyn.
Very similar.
Roxanne Shante was the MC, was the host. She was born, come out of the projects in Queens. Yeah. And then some of the other artists, not artists, but a lot of the people within the program, they all had connections to public housing.
Got you. Yeah.
And there's going to be a public housing museum opening up, I believe, next year. So everybody Google that. Google the Public Housing Museum. I believe it's going to be in New York. I'm not for certain. But yeah, so you have all these great people who have come out of public housing. It's not, and you know what the stigma attached to that is. But I met so many cool people in this world who have come out of public housing.
Oh, no question about it.
Not just Chicago, but will.i.am, I found out, he came out of the public housing out in LA.
Yeah.
Mark Anthony, he came out of the public housing in the Bronx.
See, I like to, some of my faves are like Michael Collier, who came off of State Street.
State Street, yeah.
Mr. T, who came off of State Street.
Yeah.
But I think my personal favorite is Nas. Right?
Yeah.
Because Nas came out of the projects, and not only did Nas come out of the projects, he never graduated high school.
Queensbridge projects, man.
You know what I mean? And people don't know that Nas invested in Ring Doorbell. He was one of the first to invest in Ring Doorbell, and it's paid off significantly, handsomely for him.
Yeah, but anybody who got in early, Shaq, him. So my music, going back to, my music, man, I'm listening to everybody. Of course, I'm listening to my Chicago R&B. I'm listeing to my...
Give us some names, man. Give us some names, brother. Because I like to steal some of these artists and listen to them.
Well, like I said, Isaiah Sharkey is one of them right now. Of course, I still listen to Common. I go back to his early stuff, before the Electric Circus. I'm talking about, the Like Water for Chocolate, all of that. Who else, man? Shaka Khan, of course. Quincy Jones. I'm still in that, because so many great artists were spawned off of working with Quincy Jones. The brothers Johnson.
Oh boy.
James. That whole, when he did that album, that
the Blam album.
That Secret Garden.
Oh, the Secret Garden. That was later. Yeah.
A lot of those people come from Chicago, so I'm listening to some of everybody. I'm listening to BJ the Chicago Kid a little bit.
I like that kid, man. I like BJ. Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I say, man, and there's so much good stuff being put out. Some of it is for me, some of it ain't. Yeah. But you know how they say, you don't like it, don't listen to it. Yeah. And I keep it moving. But big ups to everybody who has fought through and persevered and put their product out. Yeah. And these cats, man, like I say, the technology is so dope now that, Rod, man, we can look at us. We talking to each other right now over this these airwaves. And Rod, these kids are putting out so much different music. Even my son now, my middle son Matthew, he got a setup in his bedroom. He's made a couple of beats and stuff, and trying to, and as a parent, you're just trying to get him to, hey man, put it out. You're gonna put it out. You're gonna let your boy who's a MC, let him use the track and let him, whatever. But you just want to see them do good.
Yeah, that's funny, man. Here's some irony. My son just sent me a track that he did, right? And he was telling me that you know he wanted to be a rapper. He wanted to perform, and I said I never tell him no, right?
Right.
What I told him was I said don't limit yourself to that lane alone, right?
Yeah.
I need you to consider production. I need
Yeah.
you to consider being like an engineer. I need you to consider writing. Some of the things that you talked about earlier, right? Yeah. Look at the whole gamut, right? Because sometimes you'll find that the artist is only getting crumbs, bro.
Yeah. And everybody, and what a lot of people when you talk about artists retaining their rights, whether you're a writer, whether you're a music artist, but retain your rights to your product, because everybody else will try and capitalize off of your product, and you'll be the one who gets the short end.
Yeah.
You'll be the one coming up with the short end. But Rod, like I say, music, I'm listening to some everything. When I need to get in here, and I'll turn on some classical to quiet my mind, to get me to okay, now think about where you're going, think about what you're doing, so all of those things, man. So I'm listening to everything. Classical, I listen to some French, some MCs from France. So I listen to them a little bit. My man DJ Shorty Blitz in London. So I'm just listening to. Some days, man, whatever you feel. I mean, and that's the beauty of it, man. We got all these apps. You can punch in whatever, man. I listen to Turkish music, for the ding, 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 Indian music. You listening to that stuff, man, because you need a different vibe. You can't stay in the same vibe forever. Yeah. So you do have to move. You do have to change your scenery, listen to different things, eat different things, so that you can get a feel for what the world is. Rob, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten was my dad. God rest his soul, Ollie Johnson. Love you, my man. He was an Air Force. He was in the Air Force. And he went from DuSable High School in 1950, like 1952-ish, something like that, 50 maybe. He went from there to the Air Force. He's around the world. Yeah. And he told me growing up, he said, listen, the world is a big place. Don't be afraid to get out and see it.
Yeah. And if you can't get out and see it, Frederick Douglass said, you can travel the world through reading.
Yep.
Until you make some money to actually get out physically, right?
Pick up a book, man. And I tell that everybody. You don't know, you know what holds us back, Rod? The fear of not knowing. Because we're unfamiliar with it. Oh, we've never seen that before. We've never heard that before. Okay, well, matter of fact, you don't even have to pick up a book. You got everything right in the palm of your hand, in your phone. Google something that you don't know. Yeah. I do it periodically. Yeah. I'll just Google something that I'm totally unfamiliar with. Yeah. And I use that as that's the world. Get out and see it. I didn't know about stocks and whatnot. Hey, guess what? I Googled some stuff, some material. I read up on it to know what the basic is. I didn't know about AI. Yeah. Hey, I've been reading up on that. I needed to find out some information about some new equipment that we were going to be working with, and on the sets, the lighting and stuff like that. I went on and found out about it. So it's the education part is there for you, don't be afraid of what you're going to learn from that.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of what you're going to learn from that.
So listen, man, we're going to close now, man, but I just want to say to you, brother, number one, I'm very proud of you, man. You know, we've known each other since high school, you know.
1980.
Yeah, and you've always been a guy of high character as far as I'm concerned, man.
I'm
very proud of how you've navigated the terrain of life, man. And I just look so I look so forward, so much forward to seeing what else is next for you, man.
Yeah.
And I'm always like in the spirit of positive vibes for you and your family, man.
Yeah, likewise.
But in this interview, you know, you had to go through the rigors of our final segment, which is called "Bring Some Weed, I Got a Story to Tell," and I don't even smoke, right? And so for our final segment, you get to tell a story of your choice, no matter what it is, what it's about, or who it might be about. Now is your time.
So roll up, everybody. So Dig, I'll tell you, happened while we were filming Barber Shop, I believe. Yeah, I think it was Barber Shop. So I was an office PA, which meant I was answering the phones, making copies for the producers, for the actors, you know, all of that stuff. Man, that was my first time working in an office. So that's when I got a semblance of what everybody did, what the producers did, what the director did, what they did. And, you know, you're there doing pre-production. So anyway, we're coming to the end of Soul Food. There's if people remember in the movie, there was a scene where Jodeci and the character Miles, played by my man Michael Beach, his band, they're all in After Seven, which is Babyface's group and whatnot. So all of them are part of the group. So we're getting ready to shoot this scene, and come to find out that Jodeci didn't want to get in the van. They at their hotel, and the set PA, who's a friend of mine, Melody Moses, she calls back to the office saying, "Oh, they don't want to get in the van." You know, it was a lot of that, and I was like, "Hold the phone." I told her, I said, and you know, it was early in the morning, so like the producers hadn't got to either set yet, or they hadn't gotten to set or to the office yet. So when we open the office, like an hour and a half before crew calls is even happening. So they don't want to get in the van. And I'm the only one there, really. And I say, Mel, call Randy. Randy Fletcher was the first AD. I was like, call Bob. I don't know. She was like, nobody. It was still early. Nobody. Yeah. So I say, hold the phone up so they can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, guys, you're under contract, number one. Number two, get your asses in that van and go to set. She said they looked at the phone, and I guess nobody's ever talked like that. And she said they got in the van, went to set. We, did the scene, but it was just funny. And she'll call me and she'll tell me, "Hey, did you get in the van yet?" Just some she was like, "Hey, DJ, I got some people who don't want to go to set." I was like, so, but it's those types of moments that your character, what you're made of, and it was no backing down. Rod, I could tell, next time we talk, Rod, I'm gonna let you roll. I'm gonna let you roll some audio on some of it, because I got those stories that Questlove tells from the tour bus. Have you seen those?
Yes.
Just like it's just because it's real shit, but it's funny, it's humorous, and it's good weed smoking material. And whatnot. So Rod, I love you, brother. Man, thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir.
And anytime, man, if you want to come when things get back settled down, I want you to come out to the set so you can see it, so you can actually see how it's done, how as they say, how the sausage is made.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's good, man. Always good to see you, brother. Love you. Keep it, and hey, man, keep it 100 all the time. And what you're doing, Rod, dude, I commend you, because you're educating. You educate, dude. You are forming the lives and opinions of these young people out here through your being an educator.
Yeah.
And I commend you for that, brother. Love all the time, man.
Yes, sir. Hey, big up to Talana Wilson as well, man. Who works in the set of power.
Big ups to my girl T, man. She was one of the first people I got in, because when she was doing her thing, and I was like, man, I gotta get my people in.
Yeah.
And it was at the right time too. And this was in her, I think I got her on Barber Shop. And
I think so. I think she did tell me she worked on Barber Shop.
Yeah, and that was like I say, that was in the early days, man. And here we are. She's still doing hair for the stars, and when they come in town, they like, where's Talana at? Where, and that's how, and it makes me feel good, Rob, because she understood the assignment.
Yeah, she's been one of my biggest cheerleaders for a long time, bro. Long time.
Super dope people, good people, and just shout out to all our brothers and sisters who've passed on. Big Devin Wells, Mackenzie, Matt Campbell, Pig, Derek Fields, Candy Butts, all of them. My girl Val Smith, who I dated, and Petey, but all of them formed us, man. All of them was our people, and so we always carry a little bit of those people with us. And,
that spirit is still here, man. That spirit is still here. Hey, one love, brother. We'll talk to you in a minute, all right?
God bless.
I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
All right.